Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Nick Van Sluyters with Old Man Gaming, and with me is
Logan, aka Knight605.
And this is it. We are in podcast episode 4, and this is a very special podcast, but we'll get to that in a minute. First, want to just shout out some credits. You'll have noticed a new banner if you're watching this and actually physically watching it. That was done by Mark Bell, and you'll also have noticed a new kick-ass theme song, which was done by my brother Nick Van Sluyters. So mad props to both of them.
Amazing theme song. Amazing theme song.
Now it's everybody's favorite part, the disclaimers. Number 1, neither me nor Logan nor our guest do this professionally. We are not paid, and therefore we're not going to go back and edit stuff. You might hear dogs. You might hear somebody drop a phone. It's a precarious situation, everybody, but we don't do this professionally, so keep that in mind. And before we continue, I also want to do something else. We're going to start something called Fanteraction, and that is I'm going to ask you, the fans, to share stories, maybe answer a question, something along those lines each week. Please just comment in the comments below, and whatever it is, I'll read it out. I mean, we don't have enough fans that I couldn't read them all, so please fire away. And this week's Fanteraction question, in light of video games in the news getting kind of a bad rap, we're not going to go into that on this show, but I want everybody out there to maybe think of a time that games impacted you in a positive light. Something that maybe you found a friend out of it, maybe you got through some hard period in your life, something like that. It doesn't have to be too mushy. It can be, but it doesn't have to be, and it doesn't have to be big. Please comment below. And with that, so not only is this a special episode because of the new bells and whistles, but this is our special Borderlands 3 extravaganza. We're talking Borderlands start to finish in this episode. All the questions, everything we've seen, we're going to break it down. And to help us do that is a guy who knows everything there is to know about Borderlands. He is the closest thing I have to an expert. He's my brother-in-law, Phil Blazek. Introduce yourself, buddy.
Yo, YouTube. My name's Phil. I don't know about expert, but I do want to thank both Zach and Logan for having me on the show. I want to congratulate you on your million subscribers. It's cute that you guys still say that you're not making money off of this. But I've been a big fan watching for what feels like a lifetime since episode 1, so I'm glad to be here. And,
I like this idea. We should just fake it till we make it. That's what I think the goal of this is right there.
Honestly, though.
No, Phil is being modest, though, on his Borderlands knowledge. He is, basically, here's how it goes. I say, Phil, this is this new game. It's really cool. It's called Dauntless. It's free to play. Let me show it to you. Oh, hey, that does look cool. You should play it. And then he goes home, and he gets online, and he plays Borderlands 2. This guy is, I think you're OP8 now, which I didn't even know that existed in Borderlands.
OP10.
You're OP10? Jesus.
Yeah, they did the Lilith campaign and raised it to OP10.
Let me ask you this. What's your average damage? Just like firing a gun.
Oh, shoot.
Like just
millions.
Millions.
It's actually really hard to read the numbers. I think it's like 500 million or something like that.
So this should give all the listeners an idea why I had to have Phil on for the Borderlands episode. Okay.
I'm a weird kind of gamer, so I don't have as much number one, it's kind of cool because I'm right in between Zach and Logan's age, but I don't have tons of time to play games, so what I tend to do is like find a game I like and then just beat it to death because I just want to be good at something, I guess, since I never have time to play. So yeah, that's why. Like basically, I play like 3 games, like Borderlands and Forza, and I can't even think of another one right now. So.
You just defined the reason I play video games, which is to be good at something. I can't do it physically. I got to do it digitally. All right. Well, with that introduction out of the way, let's move right into it. So our first Borderlands topic: will Borderlands hang? And I know that's a broad topic, but the reason I'm asking it, let me get specific. Do you think Borderlands is going to be in the Game of the Year nominations, like contention? Is it going to be discussed there? Will it not? Will it fade in the background? I don't think that's going to happen, obviously, because we're having a whole show about it. But what do you guys think? Is this going to be a Game of the Year nominee?
So I'll let you start off.
I think it potentially very well could. I know there's a large fan base, and just like I could hop onto Borderlands 2 right now and find, hundreds of people playing, and that's a 7-year-old game. So, I mean, I think if there's that many people playing now, imagine what it will then. And all these people have been waiting a significant amount of time for the continuation of the Borderlands. So I think it's definitely a strong possibility that it'll be up there in contention if the CEO, Randy Pitchford, can keep his mouth shut and stay out of the press for a little while.
Yeah, I can't disagree with the Randy Pitchford thing. We'll go into that in a little bit. But, Logan, what do you think?
I think for sure it's going to be in contender. I don't think it's going to win Game of the Year. I don't think it's going to win Game of the Year. But I think it's 100% going to be a contender.
Let me ask you who you think. We won't go too into it. I don't want to digress too much. But who do you think is going to be the one that beats it?
Well, because last time I drew a blank and didn't give you a full answer about who I think Game of the Year is going to be, I put some thought into it. And I'll give you...
Well, better late than never, I guess.
Shadows Die Twice. That's going to win Game of the Year.
Really? Sekiro?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I guess that's a conversation for another time, but that is from what I hear a very good game.
Oh, it definitely is.
I don't think it's got the juice, though. I really don't think it's got the juice, but we'll have to see. Okay. I think it's definitely going to be in contention. Borderlands 3. I really agree with Phil. I think Randy Pitchford hurts that brand every time he gets on Twitter or he starts talking or he starts doing stuff. The banning YouTubers, the Epic Game Store, and then when everybody's upset about it, instead of saying, hey, this is just the way it is, he kind of like trashed them. Like every time that dude opens his mouth, he hurts the brand of the game. And I hate to say it, but Game Awards, in my opinion, a lot of it's brand. It's not just about the best game. Yeah,
it is.
I'll say this till the day I die. I don't think God of War was a better game than Red Dead Redemption. Like, I don't. I think that it just has a better brand, and that's just me, I guess.
It's so crazy that they compare games like that to each other. Like, how do you even go about that? But
it's hard. It's hard. I mean, when I do the reviews, I don't do scores because I don't know. I don't ever agree with the scores when I look at a review.
Yeah.
I do wanna also, with the Borderlands hang, this game is kind of threading a weird needle. We all know that looter shooters kind of started with Borderlands. And games as service, a lot of them have taken that mold and turned it into a games as service. I think everybody can say Destiny, even Anthem, share some basic concepts and ideas, though not always the same execution. So there's a lot of people out there who are like, is this a games as service or is this a Borderlands game? And there's a lot of people who are saying that games of service are going to be threatened by this, and there's a lot of people who are saying, this is just a Borderlands game, whatever. What do you guys think? Is this going to change the landscape of games of service, or is this just a Borderlands game, and games of services are going to keep on chugging along?
I'll start this one off, and I think it's just a Borderlands game. I honestly do. I think Borderlands has its own thing going on and that really shows up for like what it is as a game. It proudly stands up among the rest, and it is its own thing. And I don't think that it's going to change too much games of service.
Okay, that's fair.
I think Logan's right. Like, Borderlands is its own thing, but I think what it will do is it'll put pressure on the games of service model, just because it's like it's towing that line, between, just being a standalone Borderlands game and the games of service. I mean, you have what game can you name that isn't a games of service that can keep a player base years? Like,
right.
Exactly.
That's true. It definitely has the player retention rate that a games of service have. I'm kind of halfway. I think that games of service, I'm kind of more with Phil on this, but in a very specific way. I think that where it's really going to put pressure is games with loot systems that people aren't happy with. Because games of service is a pretty broad statement. I mean, a battle royale game is a games of service, but I think the specific looter shooter genre, Destiny 2, Anthem, those games, when Borderlands comes out, people are going to go, this is the loot we want. Why don't these other games have that loot? And that's been the biggest complaint for Anthem. That's been, I think Destiny's okay, but I think a lot of those looter shooters, the big problem is the loot system. And I don't think Borderlands has ever had a bad loot system, and I think this one's only going to get better.
Yeah, supposedly they're upping the drop rates and making certain bosses more readily farmable and all that. So it should be even better than the second one.
Well, and that's one thing that I feel like Borderlands 3 kind of really shares with games of service is they've really looked at like how the players played Borderlands 2, and they've taken Borderlands 3 and kind of updated their model to really fit that. There's also a ton of like internet-based stuff that they've toted, the bounty hunting and whatnot, and the doing the missions faster than people, and the proving grounds, which we're going to discuss later in our next segment. But I think that too kind of threads the needle on games of service.
Yeah, I'm excited for that proving grounds thing.
Yeah, that proving grounds thing looks amazing. We'll move right on from this to that. So moving right into the next topic, which is the end game of Borderlands. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't seen enough to really like get my juices flowing for that end game. And there has been some other people who are wondering how deep the end game of Borderlands 3 is. So let's talk about it, guys. The end game, proving grounds, and other stuff.
I think Endgame is nothing to worry about. I think they got it. I think that they're not showing you it fully right now, because obviously they're not going to show you the full Endgame before the game even comes out. But yeah, I think that they got a lot of tricks up their sleeve that people are sleeping on.
Okay, all right.
I think Logan's right. Like, I think people are paranoid that just because they haven't shown something, it's not there. I mean, you don't take a company, not to beat a dead horse, but that made a game last for, 7 years and expect them not to have endgame in development. And they have showed us a little. They, like Zach said, the proving grounds, and then they have Torg Slaughter Arena, which is pretty cool because it kind of sounds like a Mad Moxie Underdome that doesn't suck. Because actually gain something from doing it other than just wanting to, kill yourself.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen a lot on the Torg Slaughter Arena. I know of it. I am very excited for the Proving Grounds. I watched a few videos on that. That almost, to me, though, doesn't really feel like Endgame so much as a really cool way to very casually play if you want to. Because the way they made it sound like is you just jack in and it's 20 minutes and you just run through it. And it's just a fun way to, like, get loot and some experience. What's Torg Slaughterhouse? Give me the rundown, because I haven't seen a whole lot on it, honestly.
It's your typical wave base, do you remember Moxie's Underdome?
Oh yeah.
So it's basically 5 waves or 5 levels of enemies, all consisting of multiple waves, and you just try to survive till the end.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
From my understanding, you'll actually gain experience and loot. Where they failed with the Moxie Underdome thing was you didn't get anything out of it. It was just like, there was nothing behind it. You were just killing bullet sponges for kind of
right.
No, nothing.
Yeah, you didn't get anything out of it. I remember the Underdome not being fun at all. I personally, that does sound good. For me, Endgame though, I want kind of like I don't know, kind of like a Destiny thing where it's like a regular like events each week and stuff like that. I don't know if they have that, which I really want to see that. I want to see just like little bits of content dumped here and there, almost to take a games as a service model. And I don't think we're gonna get that. I think we're more gonna get the 3 standalone DLCs, and then that'll be it. What are you guys' take on that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think that we're gonna get a couple DLCs from that.
Yeah.
See, I've heard some differing things. Like, I think we'll get the DLCs, and then obviously we know Standing Ground, which I think is cool, because the faster you do it, the better loot you get and all that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it reminds me of a Digistruct Peak, but shorter and, thing style. But the cool thing I heard about, and obviously you have to take it with a grain of salt, but one of the YouTubers who was at the, play testing,
right.
he had interviewed, I forget which Gearbox executive it was, but that Gearbox executive alluded to like a Diablo type, he said loosely, like a Diablo type, like raid system coming into the game.
Okay.
So his explanation was essentially that, if you're at Endgame and you don't necessarily want to, play a mission, you could hop on this like raid, like Diablo did, where you just say go into this certain area, kill a bunch of bad guys, and loot.
Right. Almost like procedurally generated.
That sounded really cool.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. That there was a game back in the day, Torchlight. Torchlight 2 is just now coming out for consoles, but Torchlight 1 was amazing. I 100%ed that game. It's one of the 3 games I've got all the achievements for. But it was a Diablo style like dungeon crawler, but the cool thing is once you finished it, like once you got to the end and you did all of it, and there was a lot of game there, they basically put this map in this like dungeon in where every time you go into it, it just procedurally generates the dungeon, like completely different from the last time. Yeah. So literally like I would love to see something like that with Borderlands. That would be amazing. And that's what it sounds like you're talking about, honestly.
Yeah, that is exactly what it sounded like, which, obviously they're all secretive and they can't release too much information, but he even threw the name Diablo into it, and they did that type of thing, with their raids.
Right. Yeah. And I would definitely like to see that. I do like the way that they're doing the in-depth character performance. Like, I'm actually okay that they're not releasing, eventually 6 characters over time instead of just staying with the 4. I really enjoy. I was playing with the online skill allocator thing that they have, and I was really enjoying that. I think that their skill tree, like if I had to pick a thing other than the loot that Borderlands does good, I think that skill tree, like every time they make it better, and the skill tree for this game just looks absolutely phenomenal. So many ways to play.
You know what I think my favorite part about this is in being that I've played through the end game, heavily of Borderlands 2, is in Borderlands 2, it becomes very, like, the classes, the characters become very typecast. Like, you have Maya, who is, like, awesome in, for hordes, but terrible as, like, a raid boss killer solo.
Okay.
And you have Zero, who is great at killing raid bosses, but I'm not saying you can't make it work, but he's definitely very, very hard to be good at horde type battles.
Right.
And what they've done with these new skill trees, I've played with the builder, and to me it looks like you could pick any character and you could make that character good at anything. You might have to respec in game, but that's part of the game.
Yeah.
And I think that's exciting because if there is, 30 hours of gameplay as opposed to Borderlands 2, if you just played through the main game, maybe 10.
Right. That's only if you mainline it with no side quests, so.
Yeah. But think about it, like, that's going to deter, it might. It might make it harder for a guy like me who doesn't have, hundreds of hours to put into a game at a time.
Right.
But it might deter me from being able to start every single character and blow through the whole campaign and level them up to max level. But because of the way they've designed these skill trees, I won't have to.
Right.
It's looking like, which I think is pretty cool.
That's something me and Logan talk about all the time on this show is, well, not all the time on this show. I don't know why I said that. I meant all the time, period. is there's so many games. Horrible podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Is that there's so many games out there who want to put all these options in your face, but only like 2 or 3 of them are actually viable. One of our favorite games to talk about, Realm, is a big proponent of this. You can only run like 2 builds, 1 build for each character class, maybe.
Not even right now.
Right.
You can run 4 builds in the entire game.
Right. But there's like 30 types of builds. It's just none of them are competitive except the 4. And I feel like this game is really going to have that. I want to play this character this way. I want to play this character this way. I want to play this character this way.
Variety.
Yeah. I really like that.
Yeah, I think they're doing something right there.
Yeah, I really do. I that was one thing I liked from the get. I love the 3 trees, and each one has its own action skill, completely independent of the other ones. I thought that was just such a good way, and some of them even benefit building 2 at the same time instead of just going for that capstone, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So.
And you gotta give them props too for the loot instancing and the fact that multiple leveled characters can play with each other and not be handicapped and or overpowered. Like that's a big thing. Cause I know when Borderlands 2 came out, we had like a little party where we played for a whole night. Me and Zach and another friend, and what happened with that character is it was fun, but once we played that,
right.
Maybe Zach had more time to play than me, so I couldn't just hop online with.
Right.
He'd be way over leveled,
Right. Or you had 2 characters and one just had to sit there. I will say that was like one of Borderlands' biggest mistakes or not necessarily mistake, just something they weren't quite doing right, and that was one of the things I was most excited for. I do remember the Borderlands 2 and the Borderlands pre-sequel, and we would play, but when somebody would jump on, like, I remember one time when we were trying to play with Scott, his character was 8 levels below us because he couldn't play. You know, Scott's another friend of ours, me and Phil's. But and it's just, that was one of the super irritating things. Is like, if you didn't have a character specially reserved. Actually, one of my all-time favorite games, Monster Hunter World, is guilty of that too. It's really hard to play with somebody who isn't like within like 10 levels of you. And 10 levels seems like a lot, but in that game, levels go up to like 1,000. So like, it's yeah, it's very hard to like find that, and they'll match make you into a group or whatever, but like if you're trying to play with a friend and he doesn't have as much time, he's not going to be able to play what you're playing. Like, he's just not. This game fixes that. If I see you on, I can jump into a game with you with my character regardless of the level, and vice versa, and that's amazing. I think that's amazing. I was so excited about that. Yeah, I'm actually surprised we haven't brought that up yet.
Yeah, and it sounds like you could also, turn that off too if maybe, a year down the road and you're done with the main game, and it sounds like you'll be able to still have the option to power level somebody if that's what you're, shooting for, which it's cool that they're not pigeonholing you one way or the other.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I would like a lot of other games to do that too, to be honest. And so, I think,
Logan, what is it that why aren't you as big into Borderlands?
Why am I? Okay. I'm not as big into Borderlands just because, I don't know, I really never got into it. I never had the time.
Which is weird, because you do like some pretty looty games.
Skyrim? Oh, I have so much time in Skyrim. But
Skyrim is the shit. I agree. Phil can't do Skyrim, but I'm with you on Skyrim. But Anthem, we played Anthem more than we should have.
Oh yeah, no, that's for sure. And like, I like looter shooters. I just never really got into it. I never had friends that played it, and so I never got into it. And then I just had a bunch of other games that I had time for,
Well, we'll have to change that.
So let me ask you this, Logan.
Okay.
Is this going to be the one that changes your mind? Is this the one that you're like, are you excited about this at all? Is this the one that, like, I want to try this, I want to see what this is about?
I'm definitely willing to give it a try, that's for sure. I like a lot of the systems that like I watch gameplay and stuff, and I like what they're implementing into the game.
Okay.
And I definitely like how it's not as harsh of humor as Borderlands 1.
I think once we get into game, though, I think it will be. Honestly, I think that the humor will be turned up to 11 once we start playing. I don't think they're showing the really terrible parts at like conferences and stuff, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna see some nasty stuff in that game. I mean, fuck, one of the ones that they showed, they had Tannis crawling out of a creature. Like, you meet her, she's crawling out of a dead body because she's crazy and she likes to sleep in a dead body. And it's pretty messed up.
Yeah.
At the same time, Zach, you're talking to a guy that likes the Modern Warfare campaign.
Oh my god. I forgot. We gotta kill kids for you to get out of bed. Yeah, seriously. Jesus. Oh, good. Good. I'm 2-on-1. I'm 2v1 you. I got Phil with me. We both hate the Modern Warfare campaign.
I'll play some multiplayer, but their campaigns are kind of weak.
I don't like that all the characters that I play as die. It makes me feel like I'm not accomplishing anything. Like, when the bad guy finally dies, I'm like, what does it matter? He killed me 14 times. And he dropped a nuke on my head. Like, it had nothing. All right, so our next segment, the final one before the very fun fantasy corner. We want to talk about what we want to see out of Borderlands 3 that maybe we haven't seen yet. What do we think the biggest surprise is going to be, or what do we want the biggest surprise to be? Phil, what you got for me?
I don't know about surprise, but like what I really love about the Borderlands franchise is the lore, and I hope that this game, which looks promising, builds more on the lore and leaves some less open-ended, questions just hanging. Like the other Borderlands, they seem to do all the lore through echoes, which were just like voice recordings and stuff, and you had to find them.
Right.
And the one good thing the pre-sequel did, which is that game gets a lot of hate, but the good thing they did was the characters, they spoke, in game.
Right.
And it definitely seems like Borderlands 3 is going to continue with that. And I hope they just build off of that even more, so that, like, if I'm going to play Flack, who is going to be my main for this game, I want the story to build around him as well as, the Borderlands universe as a whole. So, like, answering some more questions about sirens and the role they play and the Iridians, and, I just want all of this story that's been building up to start to come together and not end, but, streamline itself into a very cohesive
I definitely get that. If there's one thing about the Borderlands games, they definitely leave a lot of loose ends out there without tying a whole lot of them up. And I'd love to see that too. I mean, I really want somebody to explain to me the goddamn alien from the pre-sequel.
Yeah.
They haven't talked about it at all in Borderlands 3. Borderlands pre-sequel, which is after everything, ends with an alien showing up and telling them all war's coming. And then Borderlands 3, it's like, whatever. I'm like, we're fighting YouTubers. I'm like, what happened to the alien? What happened to the alien?
I did, however, regarding those aliens, I did happen to see a leak about, so you know how they called that one alien at the end of Borderlands 2 the Watcher? They alluded to with that Torg, the Torg slaughter round things.
Right.
They alluded to get into that, you go and talk to another, I forget what they called him, like the Guardian or something like that, but it was another Iridian. So already we know that there is two living Iridians, so there is going to be something. I don't know how deep they'll get into it, but hopefully pretty deep. But
it better explain that. That's all I care about. That was a good one, though, Phil. Yeah. I agree. I think the lore could be better, and I would really love to see playing through it have, like, the story, even if the story itself isn't tailored to the characters, but have them react in their own way to everything going on would be really nice.
Yeah.
Logan, what do you got?
Yeah. Okay, so right now, watching some footage of Borderlands 3, the main thing that I would like to see, like, fixed, and it's a little bit of a complaint, but at the same time, I know that by the time that the game comes out, they'll probably have it patched up more or less.
Okay.
Is the vehicles, the AI vehicles, tend to steer off and just, like, do nothing for a minute. I've seen that a lot, and it's not just like a one-time thing. It's happened a lot, so I know for a fact that they're going to be working on it, and I'm hoping that they can completely fix that by the time that the full game comes out.
That would be nice. I totally agree with that, because
I would be amazed by that, Logan, because if anything is weak in the Borderlands games, it's definitely driving.
You guys totally stole mine. I should have gone first. The thing I want to be surprised by is driving mechanics. That's what I want to be surprised by. I want to be... Borderlands scratches an itch for me in the Mad Max post-apocalyptic genre. Even though it's not really, it's more like space-oriented, it just scratches that itch for me and always has. And the cars look like it should too, but then they suck. They just suck. You only ever use them to cross bridges. Like, they're just terrible. And actually, I don't want to quote myself on this because it's been a long time since I heard anything, but when they first started talking about Borderlands, somebody had said released that they tapped they brought in help from a driving studio, like a studio that does driving games. I do not remember the driving studio, and it's been a long time since then. But that made me really hopeful because I want to see, in the previews you see the bandits jumping from like one car to another. I want to see that. I want to like have a bandit jump on the car and me have to shoot him off the back or something. I think that would be like that's what I want to
really
see.
Cool.
I want just like a driving mechanic suite like nobody's seen before. I want, like you said, Phil. In my opinion, if you go back to every Borderlands game, the weakest thing is the driving.
For sure.
And when you're playing, like, you get to that first driving scene and you're like, shit, I gotta do this. Great. I gotta get in this stupid fucking car, drive off a cliff 4 times, figure out how to boost, and then once I've boosted, like, get the fuck out of it, because I hate it. Not to mention the fact when you're in a car, you don't get as much experience for killing stuff. So why would you be in it? So it's...
Exactly.
I want them to rework that. I want that to be as good as the rest of the game, or at least passable. It's the weakest part of every Borderlands game. And it bums me out every time because I get in that Mad Max power fantasy, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get into a car, I'm going to custom drive it, and then you get in it, and it's like Crazy Taxi. I don't need this shit. Like, it's fucking terrible.
Yeah, like I don't think it will ever be a racing game, but they could definitely make it manageable and at least a fun element of the game instead of something that you just reluctantly have to do to cross across a map.
Yeah, and that's what, like, add a QuickTime event here or there. Like, if they just took the driving, which isn't really fun, but if they just took it and they had bandits drive up on trucks and try and jump onto your car, and you would have to press a button real quick to shoot them off, man, I would be on cloud 9. Absolutely on cloud 9.
Yeah.
That would be it. Like, I would just drive around a desert, like, pretending I'm Tom Hardy in Mad Max Fury Road, just, like, screaming stuff, like, witness me. I'd put some fake chrome on my mouth. It would be amazing. They won't. That's what I want to see. I want to see that. That's the one thing that they haven't shown me that I want them to show me.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely needed.
All right. Well, I guess it just about covers that. All right. Fantasy Corner. Everybody's favorite time, other than the disclaimers. This week's question, it's got to be like the rest. It's got to be Borderlands themed. So this question is this. If somebody comes to you, gives you a blank check, they say, make a Borderlands game. It's canonical. It's in the lore. You have to pick a side character or just one character, and you have to make a game about them. It can be any genre. It can be any style. It can be anything you want it to be. What's the character? And what's the game? Phil, you're the guest. Let's go to you first.
All right. Well, my favorite character in Borderlands 2 is Krieg, and his character has so much open-endedness to it. And what I would want is almost like a prequel to the Krieg we know, and I want to see how his character that was, experimented on by Hyperion. Like, I don't even know if it would end up being like a Borderlands-like game, but just having, because all we know about him is that he was some sort of bounty hunter, and he was captured by Hyperion, and his family was supposedly killed, but I want to see all that. It almost seems like it would be like a Max Payne style game, and just seeing him turn into the psycho that we know as Krieg.
That would be awesome. Krieg being the psycho, one of the DLC characters from Borderlands 2, right? Just so that everybody out there knows, if you haven't played Borderlands 2. He was, since he came out, he was my favorite too, so I like that idea. That's a good one. And it would definitely expound on the lore. He's a definite loose thread that I'd love to see tied up at some point, because there was a lot of rumors going on that he was Tiny Tina's dad.
Yeah, which were, like, kind of debunked, but then there's always the argument against those debunks. And so, I don't personally think he is, but there's got to be more to him than we know,
Right. That would be really cool if he was. Honestly, that would be a really cool lore twist. All right, so Logan, what's yours, man? All right, so you all have noticed there was a weird silence when I went to go to Logan. I just want to explain to everybody listening, we seem to have some sort of technical difficulties. I mean, I guess this is the punishment for actually being a horrible podcast, but I can't seem to get a hold of Logan, so we're just going to try and wrap this without him, and we'll get his game at the beginning of next episode or whenever. And so sorry, everybody. Logan had to step out, but
he will be missed.
He will be missed for this last 10-minute period. All right, so I guess we'll go to my game then. And I put a lot of thought into this one. I'm very proud of it. I would pick Marcus Kincaid, and I would not do a shooter game. And the reason is I think anybody who likes shooters plays Borderlands. I think that Borderlands has the market covered on that. So really they want, and I think anybody who loves Borderlands is going to play anything they put out. So I would want to pull in some players who normally wouldn't maybe get into Borderlands. So I would make a vending machine store simulator. I know that this doesn't sound fun, but here's what you do. You play on Pandora. You play as a young Marcus Kincaid just starting his empire. You have to set up the shops. You have to strategically figure out where the best place to place the vending machines are. You have to hire vault hunters to protect those vending machines and to actually acquire more loot for you to sell in the game. And I would make it a real-time strategy game. That's what I would do. I would have a full map, overhead view of map of Pandora, and just slowly you have to manage your own economy and actually build yourself up on Pandora into the megalithic salesman that we all know and love. That would be my game. I think that would bring so many more players in, and I would just love to play that. I think that would be so much fun to use a strategy basis in Borderlands for once. I thought that'd be interesting.
It's like a Sims meets
right.
Borderlands type thing.
Right. It's almost like Sims versus StarCraft is what I was thinking. There would be plenty of fighting and stuff you could see on the screen, but you're not necessarily controlling it. There would also be a really cool balance of you'd have to decide what weapons to give your vault hunters to go get more weapons and what weapons to try and sell to the vault hunters, and then depending on where you put the vending machines is how much the vending machines make. I thought I was really proud of that. I thought that was I was trying to be really creative. I thought that was just the best thing that I could come up with, honestly.
And it could be pretty entertaining, seeing as how Marcus isn't exactly the most moral person in the world.
Right? They should put in an added romance thing, so you can make all the terrible mistakes that he made with Moxie.
Yeah.
Could just be a side problem that every so often everything's going good and then Moxie destroys something.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our Borderlands episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm very sorry that my partner had to vanish for the last 5 to 10 minutes of the show, but it's a horrible podcast. We're not going to go back and edit it. This is all part of the thing. I'm still trying to get his mom to accidentally show up and talk to him on it. In any case, you can check out with me, Old Man Gaming. You can also watch reviews. I just posted a review on No Man's Sky Beyond, which I'm very proud of because I got to go back to that one. And I will do the plugs for Logan Knights 645 if you want to watch Realm highlights. And trust me, there's some crazy Realm highlights on that game. That kid can play that game like nobody else. And then, Phil, do you want to plug anything?
Sure. Well, first, thanks again for having me on, both Zach and Logan. Yeah, the only thing I can plug is I'll surely be playing some Borderlands 3 once it drops. So if anyone of your million subscribers catches me on, my gamer tag is PhilBilly330. So yeah, hit me up anytime.
All right. Well, there you go. Our million subscribers have all heard it. Okay, everyone. Well, as I always say, as long as you guys keep listening, we'll keep making them, and we'll see you next week.